Stool-Mutt, the official novel. Chapter 2. Taxi driver by weekday, barista by weekend. Stool-Mutt got into the back seat of the barista's taxi and closed the door behind himself. He sat there awkwardly. "Don't mind the mess," the barista called from the driver's seat. "So where are we heading and why?" "I don't know. Just look for a building with a huge B on the side of it or something," Stool-Mutt responded. "And why? Don't ask." The barista looked kind of confused, started the car, and drove forward. "He doesn't question it, at least for now. Well, the name's Jaquavius, and I obviously work at the cafe on the weekends," Jaquavius said. Stool-Mutt sat in the back seat for a while Jaquavius drives around town. After a while, Jaquavius speaks up. "Want to sit up here? It's not like you're one of my customers." With a hesitant response, Stool-Mutt nods and crawls up to the passenger seat, struggling in the process. Jaquavius eventually notices Stool-Mutt's awkwardness and turns on the radio. The radio plays "Escape" by Rupert Holmes, and Jaquavius started singing and dancing as a way to show Stool-Mutt that this doesn't necessarily have to be an awkward moment. Well, also because he liked the song, but that's besides the point. However, the dancing doesn't have the exact effect Jaquavius wanted, because Stool-Mutt just stared at him awkwardly. "No? Then, okay." Jaquavius finally started up the car after that minute or two of not moving. Huge oversized B, right? Got it." Stool-Mutt stares out the window. "Just smooth sailing from here, right?" "So, who are you anyway? You haven't said your name." Jaquavius looks at Stool-Mutt from his peripheral vision as he talks. Stool-Mutt looked back at Jaquavius. "Oh, the name's Gabriel, but I go by Stool-Mutt." "Seriously? You go by that? I mean, I don't judge, but it sounds like a kinda odd nickname." "I know, tons say that. I got it from a more inside thing, I guess you could call it." "Well, that's alright. Everyone has their own story, and some people's stories are just weirder than others." Stool-Mutt sat in silence for a lot of the trip till Jaquavius shouts, "Hey, look at that! A giant bee, as you said!" Stool-Mutt looked up and saw a giant bee plastered on the side of a mountain and muttered something Jaquavius couldn't make out. As they approached the mountain like land, something from the sky started attacking them, ripping off the roof of the car. The soccer ball sized object landed in Stool-Mutt's lap and is oddly shaped like a butt on its head. It got up, started flying, messing with Stool-Mutt and Jaquavius, severely messing up the driving path, making them take roads they shouldn't have taken. The robot flew around, cutting and grabbing Stool-Mutt and Jaquavius. Stool-Mutt jolts his hand forward, randomly grabs it out of the air, and stuffs it in the glove compartment. As he does this, Stool-Mutt looks at Jaquavius and releases a sigh of relief, but he and Jaquavius briefly look forward to see them fly off the edge of a cliff and plunge into a lake. Stool-Mutt, in the 1 second given to him before he hit the water, sees Jaquavius hitting his head and going limp. Stool-Mutt feels the force of the car falling off the cliff, flinging his body out of what was remaining of the windshield. The car slammed into the water with Jaquavius still inside. Stool-Mutt swam to the surface. As he was swimming, he looked down and saw Jaquavius sinking with the car. With bloody cuts from glass and scrap metal, he let out a sigh and dove back underwater. As the car sank, Stool-Mutt rushed to keep up as his vision got blurrier and blurrier. The weight of the water crushed his chest as he finally reached Jaquavius. He unbuckled Jaquavius as quickly as he could and swam up fast to the surface. As the surface tension of the water broke over Stool-Mutt's face, he gasped for air. He quickly tossed Jaquavius over his shoulder and swam to shore. Stool-Mutt threw Jaquavius on the shore and crawled up beside him. He began to perform something that looked like CPR. To be fair, he never paid attention in health class. Jaquavius was still unresponsive, so Stool-Mutt rolled over on his back next to him and stretched out. Feeling the pain of his small bleeding cuts all over his body, he made small grunts. He lay there and thought for a while, thinking about whether he was really stupid enough to let a civilian help him against a villain. But before he could finish that thought, Jaquavius coughed up water. Stool-Mutt jumped up, flipped Jaquavius over, and helped him cough all the water out of his lungs. Once Jaquavius was able to talk again, he stopped. Stool-Mutt stood up in relief and walked around in circles, thinking about how he almost just made a man lose his life. He walked and mumbled things as Jaquavius gathered himself. Stool-Mutt walked over to Jaquavius and said, "I'm sorry, I almost made you die," but as he said that, Jaquavius shot up and hugged Stool-Mutt. "Don't apologize. You saved me." "Thank you, Stool-Mutt," Jaquavius said in a thankful, crying tone. Stool-Mutt, confused what was happening, cautiously said, "You're welcome?" Stool-Mutt slowly slid into the sand and sat down next to Jaquavius and watched the lake water splash on the shore. Stool-Mutt sat still waiting for something until Jaquavius spoke up. "That's the mountain you're looking for, right?" Gesturing for Stool-Mutt to turn around. Stool-Mutt turned around to see the side of the mountain with the bee they saw earlier. "Huh," Stool-Mutt says, surprised it worked out as well as it did. Stool-Mutt stood up and helped Jaquavius up. Still with cuts on his arm, he walked forward. "So, why do you need to go to this place anyway?" Jaquavius finally asked. "Well, you remember that robot that attacked us? Well, he was made by an enemy of mine to stop us from finding his hideout," Stool-Mutt replied. "Oh, well, that's a new one," Jaquavius said, a little confused at the fact that a random dog person has enemies. Stool-Mutt walked up to the side of the mountain and started climbing the slope. The slant was steep and rough, but it was tolerable enough to climb up without gear. Stool-Mutt looked down to see Jaquavius climbing up with him. "You know you don't have to come with me, right?" Stool-Mutt said calmly. "Yeah, but I have nothing better to do," Jaquavius said proudly as he climbed up. Stool-Mutt quickly accepted that Jaquavius wasn't leaving and kept on climbing, excited that he had a little help. After around 15 minutes of climbing, Stool-Mutt and Jaquavius finally reached the metal platform. Stool-Mutt's hands grabbed onto it, pulling himself up. As he stood up and looked inside, Jaquavius pulled himself up and stood beside Stool-Mutt. The lights flickered on, and to Stool-Mutt's surprise, there sat Moist Critical, hooked up to machines and tied down. While Jaquavius was still in shock, Stool-Mutt looked over and saw a dark corner. In that corner stood Buttman with a button in his hands.